When most people think of content moderation, they picture takedowns. There's a bad post, a moderator clicks remove, then end of story. The reality of trust and safety in content moderation is much bigger than that. And the platforms that get it right protect themselves through a layered systems that almost nobody outside the industry sees. In this video, we'll break down what actually keeps content platforms safe, how all the pieces work together, and what are the tricks social media companies use to. Trust and safety covers everything platforms do to protect their users, their brand, and the integrity of the service. Content moderation is the most visible part, but it's only one layer. A full operations also handles account integrity, things like bot networks and fake accounts. It handles fraud and marketplace risks like phishing and payment scams. It handles child safety, regulatory compliance under frameworks like GDPR or the Digital Services Act, and platforms-wide manipulation campaigns. And content moderation itself is broader than people assume. It covers unsafe content like hate speech, violence, harassment, and others. But it also covers plagiarism, brand suitability, brand affinity, off-topic conversations, and even active community engagement where moderators keep discussions alive and on track. This applies far beyond social media. Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram run massive operations, but so do marketplaces, dating apps, gaming communities, video platforms, news sites, and any place where users create content. If your platform has a content stream, you need trust and safety services in some form. A few years ago, platforms could mostly handle moderations. However, they wanted behind the scenes. That's changed pretty fast. In Europe, things changed a lot after the Digital Services Act. Large platforms are under much more pressure now to show that moderation is not just random people reviewing reports all day. They need proper systems behind it. Policies, risk reviews, escalations, processes, all of it. And the very biggest platforms are under even stricter scrutiny. The European Union also launched a public transparency database where people can actually see moderation actions and enforcement reporting from platforms. So these systems are becoming much more visible from the outside too. The UK went in a similar directions with the Online Safety Act. Platforms are being pushed to take illegal content and child safety much more seriously and to build moderation operations that are actually structured to handle that at scale. So now the conversation is changing. The question is not just, can we remove harmful content? It's, can we prove that the system behind moderation actually works? The volume of content created today makes pure manual review impossible. So modern moderation runs on a hybrid model that combines AI detections with human judgment. And you can see this shift in public transparency data. TikTok's DSA transparency reporting for the second half of 2025 show that automated tools handle the vast majority of violating content enforcement, with 93.8% of violating content actions without human review and 97% of automated enforcement decisions confirmed as correct. But that still leaves the hardest part: context. Automation is useful for speed and scale, but human reviewers are still needed for intent, cultural nuances, satire, newsworthiness, borderline harassment, coded language, and appeals. AI handles the first pass. It auto-approves clearly safe content, auto-rejects obvious violations like known illegal imagery or spam, and routes the gray area to human reviewers, who are often part of outsourced content moderation teams that operate around the clock. The technical detection itself runs in layers: instant detection for blacklisted terms and bad URLs, semantic analysis using NLP to catch coded language, visual recognition for images and videos, and hash matching for known harmful files and phishing. Each layer catches what the others miss. This is where most platforms succeed or fail. and it's worth slowing down on. There are two distinct documents crucial to content moderations, and they serve very different purposes. Community guidelines are the public-facing rules that all users agree to when they join the platform. They have to be clear and accessible to everyone. Written in plain language with high-level concepts, no bullying, no hate speech, respect for each other. Their job is to communicate values and set expectations to the entire user base. Content moderation guidelines are something else entirely. This is the internal document that the moderation team uses to enforce the community guidelines consistently across thousands of decisions a day. It translates every vague rule into objective criteria, libraries of positive and negative examples, list of slurs, definition of what counts as educational versus offensive, nudity, step-by-step instruction for ambiguous cases. Without this internal playbook, two moderators in different time zones will reach different decisions on the same piece of content. Edge cases live and die in this document. A historical quote with a slur might be allowed in educational posts and removed if used to harass someone. The guidelines have to specify which is which. Together, these two documents are what makes consistent enforcement possible. Not every decision can be made at the front line. A well-run operation uses a tiered escalation matrix to send the hardest cases to the people best equipped to make them. The matrix does more than speed up decision. It turns judgment calls into a repeatable, auditable process. Without escalation paths, a frontline moderator might inadvertently ban a high-profile user and trigger a PR crisis, or fail to flag a credible threat that should have gone to law enforcement. One thing a lot of platforms underestimate is appeals. Just removing the post usually doesn't solve the whole situation. The user still wants answers. Why was it removed? Was it a mistake? Who made the call? Can they appeal? And this matters more than it sounds. If moderation starts feeling random or unfair, users stop trusting that platform pretty quickly, even if the original goal was to keep the community safe. That's why mature trust and safety teams pay close attention to appeals and overturned decisions. If the same types of cases keeps getting reversed, usually something deeper is off. Maybe the policy is unclear. Maybe moderators are interpreting it differently. Maybe the AI system is being too aggressive. Appeals are basically feedback on whether the moderation system is actually working the way the platform thinks it is. Even the best trained moderators drift over time. Reviewer calibration is the process of pulling everyone back to the same interpretation of the rules. The standard metric here is inter-rater reliability, which measures how often two reviewers reach the same decision on the same content. But mature teams do not rely on one metric. They usually track several quality signals at once. Accuracy rate, how often decisions match the policy. False positives, safe content that was removed or restricted. False negatives, a harmful content that stayed alive. Appeal reversal rate, how often users successfully challenge enforcement. Time to action, how quickly harmful content is reviewed and resolved. Policy drift, where teams slowly start interpreting the same rule differently over time. This is what separates a moderation team from a trust and safety operation. One removes content, the other measures whether the system is actually protecting the platform. High reliability means the guidelines are clear and the team is well aligned. Low reliability means there's ambiguity that bad actors can exploit. When quality drops, mature operations run a root cause analysis to figure out why. Was it a specific team? A new feature that introduced novel content? A confusing policy update? The fix usually has to be structural to stick. Calibration is what allows a trust and safety system to actually get more accurate over time. But even strong calibration can't fully solve one challenge that every community wrestles with: Content moderation has to balance community safety with freedom of expression, and there's no universal agreement on where the line should sit. This is something every platforms and every community struggles with. Bias makes it harder. Human moderators bring their own perspectives, which managed teams try to reduce through cultural alignment and strict adherence to playbooks. AI carries bias too, because it was built and trained by people. Mitigating both takes diverse perspective in policy design and transparency about the values the platform is actually enforcing. When you put all of this together, a single piece of content goes through something like this. It gets uploaded, is scanned by AI in real time, then auto-approved, auto-rejected, or queued for a human reviewer. That reviewer applies the internal playbook, and if they're unsure, they trigger an escalation. A decision is made. The user gets a notification with a reason and an appeal options. Later, a QA analyst samples that decision to check it against inter-rater reliability scores. And the community team monitors the conversation around it to keep things constructive. Every layer covers what the others miss. That's what actually protects platforms. So when a brand or a platform asks, which content moderation safety strategies actually work? The honest answer is that no single layer is enough. AI alone misses context. Humans alone can't scale. Policies without escalation create PR risk. Escalation without QA creates inconsistency. The platforms that hold up are the ones that treat moderation solutions for trust and safety as a complete system. Layered detection, clear public guidelines, detailed internal playbooks, structured escalation, ongoing calibration, and a community layer that handles the positive side of engagement. This is where outsourced content moderation often makes a real difference. A managed partner like Bunch brings 24/7 coverage, culturally aligned reviewers, internal playbooks tuned to your community, and the operational structure to keep all of these layers connected. The goal is to keep harmful content off the platform without becoming the choke point that slows your community down. This is where outsourced moderation teams can actually help a lot. Not because outsourcing magically fixes trust and safety, but because running moderation at scale gets complicated very quickly. You need people reviewing content around the clock. QA, escalation paths, policy updates, training, reporting. Keeping all of that organized and consistent is usually the hard part. That's the kind of operational work companies like Bunch are built for, helping platforms build moderation systems that can keep up as the platform grows. Trust and safety is really about coordinating policy, technology, human judgment, and quality control into a single system that protects your users and your brand at the same time. Get that system right and the platform takes care of itself.